Throughout history, whispers of objects with strange and terrifying abilities have lingered in the shadows. Not swords or crowns, but relics, ordinary-looking items infused with something beyond human understanding. Picture this: a simple wooden box said to level armies, a cup rumored to grant eternal life, a stone that cleanses sins with a single touch. These aren't fairy tales. For centuries, kings have fought wars over them. Scientists have lost sleep studying them, and even today, people risk everything to find them. What if I told you these objects might still be out there, hiding in plain sight? Over the next few minutes, we'll uncover 25 of history's most baffling relics, from the Ark of the Covenant's earth-shaking wrath to the Buddha's tooth that controls monsoons. Some might be divine gifts, others could be ancient technology we've forgotten. A few, perhaps doorways to powers we weren't meant to touch. Stick around, because by the end, you'll never look at museum artifacts the same way again, and you just might reconsider what's truly possible in our world. Now, let's turn our attention to one of history's most legendary and feared relics, the Ark of the Covenant. This golden chest, described in the Hebrew Bible, wasn't just a sacred container. It was said to be a direct conduit of divine power, capable of unleashing destruction so terrifying that even touching it without permission could mean death. Imagine a relic so potent that it could part rivers, crumble city walls, and strike down entire armies with what ancient texts describe as fire from heaven. Accounts from the Book of Exodus and the Book of Joshua paint a vivid picture of its terrifying might. When the Israelites carried the Ark into battle, it turned the tide against their enemies. In one story, the mere presence of the Ark caused the walls of Jericho to collapse after 7 days of ceremonial marching. In another, a man named Uzzah reached out to steady the Ark when the oxen pulling it stumbled, and was instantly struck dead for his irreverence. These weren't just stories of faith, they were warnings. This was no ordinary artifact. But where is the Ark now? That's where the mystery deepens. After the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem in the 6th century BC, the Ark vanished from historical records. Some believe it was hidden before the invasion, perhaps beneath the Temple Mount, sealed away in a secret chamber. Others claim it was taken to Ethiopia, where the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum proudly declares itself the Ark's resting place, though its priests forbid anyone from seeing it. Modern treasure hunters and archaeologists have chased shadows for decades. Indiana Jones might have fictionalized the search, but real-life expeditions have scoured everything from ancient tunnels in Israel to remote Ethiopian monasteries. Even cutting-edge technology like ground-penetrating radar has been used to scan potential hiding spots. Yet, the Ark remains elusive, leaving us to wonder: was it destroyed, hidden, or perhaps even taken, some say by divine intervention, to await a time when its power is needed again? Theories about its abilities range from the theological to the scientific. Could the Ark have housed something beyond human understanding, an ancient device, or even a conduit for energies we can't yet explain? Whatever the truth, its legend endures, a chilling reminder that some relics might hold powers we're not meant to wield. And speaking of divine mysteries, our next relic promises something even more extraordinary: eternal life itself. But we'll get to that soon. For now, the Ark's story leaves us with one haunting question. If it's still out there, who would dare to seek it? Moving from legend to inquiry, the Ark of the Covenant stirs not just awe but heated debate among scholars and scientists alike. Was its power divine intervention, or could there be a rational explanation hidden beneath the layers of myth? The divide between theology and science offers fascinating perspectives, each attempting to unravel the mystery of this ancient relic. Theological interpretations often emphasize the Ark's role as a sacred symbol of God's covenant with Israel. Many scholars argue its powers were less about physical phenomena and more about spiritual authority, a visible reminder of divine presence and judgment. In this view, the destruction of Jericho's walls or the sudden death of Uzzah weren't necessarily supernatural acts but divinely timed events, framed as miracles to reinforce faith. Some Jewish mystics even suggest the Ark functioned as a kind of spiritual battery, storing holiness so intense that improper contact proved fatal, a metaphor for the dangers of approaching the sacred unprepared. Yet scientific minds have proposed startlingly different theories. Could the Ark's lethal reputation stem from natural forces misinterpreted as divine? One compelling hypothesis points to its design. The Bible describes the Ark as gold-plated wood with 2 cherubim atop its lid. Some researchers speculate it might have functioned as an early capacitor, with the gold layers acting as conductors. If charged with static electricity, perhaps through ritual friction or atmospheric conditions touching it could deliver a deadly shock. Ancient accounts of fire from heaven might then describe electrical discharges, a phenomenon that would seem miraculous to Bronze Age observers. Another theory ventures into chemistry. The Ark was said to house sacred objects, including manna and Aaron's rod. Could these have included volatile substances? One controversial idea suggests the Ark contained a mix of natural chemicals like orpiment or cinnabar, which released toxic fumes when disturbed. This might explain why priests carried it with poles and wore protective clothing practices that align with handling hazardous materials. Modern experiments have tested these ideas with mixed results. Engineers have reconstructed rudimentary capacitor-style arcs, demonstrating how static could accumulate. Meanwhile, historians note that ancient cultures from Egypt to Mesopotamia used electrified statues in temples, hinting at lost technological knowledge. Still, gaps remain. How could such a device generate enough power to level walls, and why does no other ancient artifact share these traits? The debate ultimately reflects a deeper question. Do we dismiss ancient accounts as exaggerations, or do they hint at truths we've yet to fully grasp? Whether viewed through faith or physics, the Ark challenges our understanding of history's boundaries. And as we continue probing its secrets, one thing is clear: some relics refuse to fit neatly into either science or scripture alone. Our journey into the unknown doesn't end here. Up next, a relic tied to immortality itself, one that has captivated kings, knights, and questers for centuries. But for now, the Ark leaves us straddling 2 worlds, the tangible and the inexplicable, where even today, the line between miracle and mechanism remains beautifully blurred. Now, let's turn our gaze from the electrifying mysteries of the Ark to a relic steeped in legends of eternal life: the Holy Grail. Unlike the Ark's fearsome power, the Grail whispers promises of immortality, healing, and divine favor, weaving itself into the fabric of both Arthurian romance and Christian devotion. But what makes this humble cup so extraordinary? The Grail's origins are as elusive as its powers. In Christian tradition, it's said to be the vessel used by Jesus at the Last Supper, later catching his blood at the crucifixion. This sacred connection imbued it with miraculous properties, granting eternal life to those deemed worthy, healing the sick, or even bestowing boundless sustenance, as in the case of the mythical Fisher King, whose barren lands flourished when the Grail was present. Arthurian legends, though, spun the Grail into a quest of spiritual testing. Here, it wasn't just a physical object but a symbol of purity. Knights like Percival and Galahad embarked on perilous journeys to find it, their successes or failures reflecting their moral worth. The Grail's allure wasn't just in its power but in its exclusivity. It revealed itself only to the most virtuous, making it a metaphor for divine grace. But could such a relic exist beyond myth? Over the centuries, countless artifacts have claimed to be the true Grail. The Valencia chalice in Spain, for instance, is a beautifully carved agate cup dating back to the early Christian era. Pilgrims revere it for its purported connection to the Last Supper, though historians debate its age and provenance. Then there's the Antioch chalice, a silver vessel once hailed as the Grail until tests revealed it was likely a 6th century lamp. These contenders highlight humanity's relentless desire to pin the ethereal to the tangible. Even more intriguing are the stories of the Grail's effects. Medieval texts describe it vanishing when approached by the unworthy, or emitting blinding light traits that blur the line between relic and divine apparition. Some theories suggest these accounts could stem from early Christian rituals involving hallucinogenic substances, transforming a simple cup into a visionary experience. Others propose the Grail's powers were psychological, playing on the deep-seated human yearning for transcendence. What's undeniable is the Grail's cultural staying power. From Monty Python's comedic quest to Indiana Jones's cinematic adventure, it remains a symbol of ultimate aspiration. Whether as a sacred artifact or a literary archetype, the Grail challenges us to ask, is its true magic in what it does or in what it inspires us to seek? As we leave the Grail's enigmatic glow behind, another relic awaits, one not of salvation but of destiny's cruel hand. But that's a tale for next time. Shifting from ancient whispers to modern echoes, the Holy Grail's legend didn't fade with the Middle Ages. It evolved, embedding itself in pop culture with a vibrancy few relics can match. Its allure transcends time, morphing from sacred artifact to a versatile symbol in literature, cinema, and even conspiracy lore, each iteration amplifying its mystique. Take literature first. T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land wove the Grail's imagery into a tapestry of spiritual desolation and renewal, while Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code reignited public fascination by recasting it as a bloodline rather than a cup. Brown's thriller, though fictional, sparked real-world debates and pilgrimages, proving how powerfully the Grail's myth can blur fact and fantasy. And let's not forget Marion Zimmer Bradley's The Mists of Avalon, which reimagined the Grail quest through the eyes of Arthurian women, adding layers of feminist mysticism to its legacy. Cinema, though, is where the Grail truly dazzled. Monty Python's Holy Grail turned its sacred hunt into riotous comedy, yet even their absurdist take underscored the obsession driving seekers. Contrast that with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where the Grail became a test of humility and wisdom, its power fatal to the unworthy, echoing medieval themes. These films didn't just entertain, they reframed the Grail's symbolism for new generations, swapping medieval piety for modern adventure or satire. Then there's the shadowy realm of conspiracy theories. Some claim the Grail was smuggled to hidden Templar vaults or rests beneath Rosslyn Chapel, guarded by secret societies. Others insist it's a metaphor for esoteric knowledge, like alchemy or suppressed gospels. These theories often borrow from real historical puzzles like the Rennes-le-Chateau mystery, where a priest's alleged discovery of coded parchments in the 1900s fueled Grail mania in France. Whether fact or fiction, such tales keep the relic's enigma alive, proving its adaptability to humanity's thirst for hidden truths. Even video games and music have harnessed the Grail's magic. From Assassin's Creed's lore-rich quests to Parsifal's operatic grandeur, it serves as a narrative linchpin, bridging ancient mysticism with contemporary storytelling. What makes the Grail unique among relics isn't just its supposed powers, but its chameleon-like ability to shape-shift across cultures and eras. It's a mirror reflecting whatever we seek, be it immortality, enlightenment, or simply a good story. And as long as we keep searching, the Grail's legend, real or imagined, will never run dry. Now, let's turn to a relic that wields a far darker reputation, a spear said to command the tides of destiny itself. But that's a tale etched in blood and ambition, waiting just ahead. As we journey from the ever-changing allure of the Holy Grail, we find ourselves face to face with a relic steeped in far more ominous power, a weapon said to hold the very threads of destiny in its blade. The Spear of Destiny, also known as the Holy Lance, carries a legend as sharp as its point, that whoever possesses it can bend fate itself to their will. Its story begins in the shadows of the crucifixion, where a Roman soldier named Longinus is said to have pierced the side of Jesus, an act that transformed an ordinary spear into an artifact of divine consequence. From that moment, the spear's path through history reads like a chronicle of ambition and bloodshed. One of the earliest claimants to its power was Emperor Constantine the Great, who allegedly carried it into battle as a talisman of victory, linking its ownership to the rise and fall of empires. Centuries later, it passed into the hands of Charlemagne, who, according to medieval chronicles, never lost a battle while holding it, until the day he dropped it and died shortly after. Such tales cemented its reputation as a relic that could both grant and revoke fortune with terrifying swiftness. But the spear's dark magnetism didn't fade with the Middle Ages. It resurfaced in the 19th century, displayed in Vienna's Hofburg Palace, where it caught the eye of a young Adolf Hitler. Obsessed with occult symbolism, Hitler believed the spear's control over destiny could fuel his twisted vision of a 1,000-year Reich. After annexing Austria, he seized it, only for American forces to recover it in 1945, a reversal that some saw as poetic justice, as if the relic had turned against its unworthy wielder. What makes the Spear of Destiny so compelling isn't just its storied past, but the chilling question at its core: is its power real, or does it simply expose the lengths to which people will go for a shred of control in an unpredictable world? Whether divine artifact or psychological trigger, its legend endures, a reminder that some relics don't just reflect history, they seem to shape it. And as we'll soon discover, the mysteries surrounding this spear only deepen when we examine the eerie phenomena tied to its legacy. But that's a thread we'll unravel next. Yet beyond the grand arcs of kings and conquerors, the Spear of Destiny weaves a darker tapestry, one threaded with whispers of visions, madness, and supernatural influence. To understand its grip on history, we must step into the shadows where the relic's power defies mere legend. Take Charlemagne's story beyond the battlefield. Chroniclers wrote that the spear didn't just bring him victory, it spoke to him. In moments of quiet, he claimed to hear voices guiding his decisions, a detail often dismissed as myth until modern scholars noted parallels with temporal lobe epilepsy, a condition linked to hyper-religious visions. Was the spear a catalyst, amplifying a neurological phenomenon, or did it truly channel something beyond our understanding? The spear's psychological toll sharpens with Napoleon. After failing to seize it from Vienna, he allegedly suffered uncharacteristic paranoia, ranting about shadows in the blade. Historians debate whether this was propaganda, but letters from his inner circle describe his abrupt mood swings and insomnia during that period. Even more chilling, the Hofburg Palace's caretakers later reported visitors collapsing near the spear's display, some murmuring of burning eyes in their dreams, incidents logged as recently as the 1990s. Then there's Hitler's obsession. Occultist Carl Maria Willigut, his advisor, insisted the spear emitted black light, visible only to those attuned to its energy. Hitler's late-night seances, where he demanded updates on the spear's alignment, bordered on manic, yet skeptics counter that his fixation mirrors the placebo effect, a desperate man projecting his ambitions onto an object. The eerie twist: Allied soldiers who recovered the spear in Nuremberg described an unnatural coldness in its casing, a detail absent from earlier records. Science offers fragile bridges across these chasms. Geophysicists note that the spear's alleged iron tip, if meteoric, could contain rare alloys with weak magnetic fields. Could prolonged exposure subtly alter brain chemistry, or are we grasping for rational threads in a story that thrives on the irrational? Here's what's undeniable: the Spear of Destiny doesn't just reflect power, it refracts it, bending minds as easily as histories. And as we turn next to the Turin Shroud, another relic wrapped in divine paradox, remember this: some artifacts don't just hold secrets, they haunt them. Note the transition to the Turin Shroud is implied here without explicitly stating next video section, maintaining narrative flow for TTS. Shifting our gaze from the spear's spectral grip, we encounter an artifact wrapped in both linen and enigma, the Turin Shroud. This fragile cloth, imprinted with the faint shadow of a crucified man, has sparked fervent debate for centuries. Is it the burial shroud of Jesus, a medieval forgery, or something stranger still? The answers, much like the image itself, emerge only when we hold it up to the light. First, the mystery of its creation. The shroud's negative image, visible only when photographed in 1898, reveals astonishing detail. Wounds consistent with Roman scourging, a puncture near the wrist matching crucifixion nails, even what appears to be blood type AB. Forensic anthropologists note the proportions are anatomically flawless for a 1st century Judean male, with pollen grains from plants native to Jerusalem embedded in the fibers. Yet radiocarbon dating in 1988 dated the cloth to between 1260 and 1390 CE, fueling accusations of a skilled hoax. But here's where science stumbles. Modern studies suggest the tested sample may have been a medieval repair patch, not the original fabric. Microchemical analysis reveals pigments incompatible with known medieval forgeries, while laser scans show the image isn't painted but somehow scorched onto the topmost fibrils, a technique no artist has replicated. Even more baffling, the bloodstains contain bilirubin, a compound elevated in torture victims, and their precise fluid dynamics match vertical drips from crucifixion postures. Then there are the accounts of healing. Pilgrims since the 1500s report recoveries from illnesses after touching replicas, with some citing visions of the shroud's face during prayer. In 1954, a paralyzed woman in Naples claimed to walk after dreaming of the cloth, though skeptics attribute this to psychosomatic relief. More striking are lab findings from 2013. Threads irradiated with ultraviolet light emitted bursts of energy, leading physicists to theorize the image resulted from a flash photooxidation event, brief, intense light. Could this explain why some visitors describe warmth or tingling near the shroud? The Vatican remains cautiously neutral, calling it an icon of human suffering rather than proof of resurrection. Yet the shroud's deepest puzzle isn't just how the image formed, but why no forgery, no matter how advanced, can duplicate its eerie precision. As we unravel the Black Stone of Mecca next, another relic steeped in devotion and dispute, consider this. Some objects resist explanation not because they're false, but because they operate at the edges of what we comprehend. Turning now from the shrouded mysteries of Turin, we journey to the heart of Islam's holiest site, where a celestial fragment rests within the Kaaba, the Black Stone of Mecca. Unlike any other relic we've explored, this ancient stone bridges the earthly and the divine, worshipped not for its craftsmanship, but for its otherworldly origins and spiritual promise. Embedded in the eastern corner of the Kaaba, the Black Stone is believed to date back to the time of Adam and Eve. Islamic tradition holds that the stone descended from paradise as a guide for humanity, initially pure white but blackened by the sins it absorbed over millennia. Pilgrims performing the Hajj or Umrah rituals seek to touch or kiss the stone, a practice tracing back to the Prophet Muhammad himself, who called it the right hand of God on earth. The act is said to absolve sins, with each touch transferring burdens from the believer to the stone. But what is this revered object? Scientific analysis suggests it's a meteorite, likely a stony chondrite, with traces of iron and nickel supporting its extraterrestrial origin. The stone's fragmented state, now held together by a silver frame, hints at a violent history. Some scholars propose it was shattered during the Carmatian siege in the 10th century, while others believe it fractured from natural erosion. Despite its physical fragility, the stone's spiritual weight is immeasurable. During the Hajj, crowds surged toward it, their fervor so intense that Saudi authorities installed a dedicated circulation system to prevent stampede. The rituals surrounding the Black Stone are as layered as its history. Alongside the tactile veneration, pilgrims perform the tawaf, circling the Kaaba 7 times counterclockwise, each pass renewing their connection to the stone's purifying power. Modern technology has even adapted to this ancient practice. The stone's surface is periodically cleaned with a blend of rosewater and oud to preserve its sanctity, while 3D scans document its ever-changing cracks and textures. Yet debates persist. Some question whether the stone holds intrinsic power or serves as a symbolic focal point for faith. Its meteoritic composition fuels theories of divine intervention, as if heaven literally sent a fragment to earth. Others argue its true miracle lies in its unbroken chain of devotion, uniting millions across 14 centuries. As we prepare to examine the Terracotta army's cursed weapons next, consider this. The Black Stone's allure isn't just in forgiving sins, but in its ability to turn scientific curiosity into an act of reverence. Few relics so perfectly embody the meeting point of cosmic mystery and human yearning for redemption. Stepping away from the celestial mystique of the Black Stone, we now descend into the shadows of an ancient emperor's tomb, where an army of clay soldiers guards more than just secrets. They wield weapons defying time itself. The Terracotta army of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, is a marvel of artistry and scale, but its most perplexing enigma lies in the bronze blades clutched by these silent sentinels. Unearthed in the 1970s, these weapons weren't just ceremonial relics. They were found razor-sharp after over 2,000 years buried underground, a phenomenon so baffling it ignited whispers of alchemy and divine craftsmanship. How could bronze swords resist corrosion for centuries? The answer, at first glance, seems almost supernatural. These blades weren't merely cast and forgotten. They were treated with a chromium oxide coating, a technique that mirrors modern metallurgy. This thin layer shielded the metal from rust, a method so advanced that historians long believed it was impossible in the 3rd century before the Common Era. Even more astonishing, the chromium wasn't applied as a simple wash. The alloy's composition suggests a meticulous, possibly alchemical process, blending tin, copper, and trace elements in precise ratios to achieve near-mythical durability. Theories abound about how Qin Shi Huang's artisans mastered this technology. Some propose it was borrowed from even older traditions, lost to time. Others speculate that the emperor's obsession with immortality, his infamous quest for elixirs of eternal life, extended to his weapons, imbuing them with unnatural resilience. The sword's edges, still capable of drawing blood when tested, only deepen the mystery. Were they meant to serve the emperor in an afterlife battle, or were they trophies of a civilization far ahead of its time? Equally intriguing are the crossbow triggers found among the terracotta ranks. Unlike the swords, these mechanisms weren't chrome-plated, yet many remained functional. Their springs, made of bronze and animal sinew, retained enough tension to fire arrows, a testament to engineering precision that rivals modern machinery. The juxtaposition of these pristine weapons against the crumbling terracotta figures raises haunting questions. Why did the artisans prioritize the weapon's longevity over the warriors themselves? Was it practicality or something more arcane? As we piece together the puzzle, one thing becomes clear: the Terracotta army's weapons aren't just artifacts. They're a window into a worldview where death was merely another frontier to conquer, and where science and superstition blurred into something extraordinary. With their unnatural sharpness and eerie preservation, these blades challenge our assumptions about ancient innovation and remind us that some relics refuse to dull even after millennia. Shifting from ancient whispers to modern laboratories, the mystery of the Terracotta army's weapons takes an even more fascinating turn under the scrutiny of contemporary science. Researchers armed with 21st century tools have peeled back the layers of these bronze blades, only to find that their chromium coating isn't just a happy accident. It's a deliberate, sophisticated feat of metallurgy. The real shock: this technique predates modern chromium plating by over 2,000 years. Imagine a civilization without electron microscopes or chemical textbooks achieving what we only mastered in the 20th century. Detailed metallurgical analysis reveals that the coating wasn't simply brushed on. The chromium oxide layer is bonded at a molecular level, suggesting a process involving high temperatures and precise chemical reactions. Some scientists theorize that artisans used a chromite-rich mineral, ground into a paste and fired in kilns, creating a protective barrier against corrosion. Others point to traces of organic compounds in the alloy, hinting at lost recipes, perhaps even alchemical formulas that married chemistry with ritual. The most baffling aspect, the consistency. Across thousands of weapons, the coating's thickness varies by mere microns, a level of uniformity that would challenge modern factories. Equally puzzling is the chromium source. Chromite deposits in China are rare, with the nearest known sources hundreds of miles from the tomb. This raises logistical questions. Did Qin Shi Huang's empire have secret mining networks or trade routes for this strategic material? Or did they, as some fringe researchers suggest, possess knowledge of metallurgy so advanced it allowed them to extract chromium from unexpected ores? The mystery deepens when we compare these weapons to other ancient artifacts. Contemporary bronze items from Greece or Egypt show no such coatings, corroding predictably over time. Even the legendary Damascus steel, famed for its durability, relied on carbon nanotubes, not corrosion resistance. This singularity makes the Terracotta army's blades an archaeological outlier, a glitch in the timeline of human innovation. Modern attempts to replicate the process have yielded mixed results. While scientists can recreate the chromium layer, the exact method, whether it involved liquid mercury, animal blood quenching, or some forgotten furnace design, remains elusive. What's undeniable is the intent behind it. These weren't just practical safeguards against rust. They were statements of technological supremacy, meant to endure long after their creators turned to dust. As we stand at the intersection of ancient craft and modern science, one truth emerges. The Terracotta army's weapons aren't merely relics of the past. They are a challenge, a gauntlet thrown down by history, daring us to reconsider the boundaries of human ingenuity. With every scan and spectrographic analysis, we're not just studying swords. We're decoding a message from a civilization that refused to let time have the final word. Now, stepping away from the battlefield of ancient China, we journey into the shadowy jungles of Mesoamerica, where another enigmatic relic has captured imaginations worldwide: the crystal skulls. These hauntingly beautiful carvings, often attributed to the Maya or Aztec civilizations, are said to possess powers that blur the line between myth and reality. Some claim they can channel psychic energy, reveal apocalyptic visions, or even heal the sick. But what's truly behind these translucent artifacts? Are they ancient tools of divination, clever hoaxes, or something even more mysterious? The most famous of these skulls, the Mitchell Hedges skull, was allegedly discovered in the ruins of a Maya temple in the 1920s. Its flawless, lifelike design, complete with a detachable jawbone, has led many to believe it was crafted with technology far beyond its time. Legends swirl around its origins, with some suggesting it was used by priests to commune with the dead or foresee catastrophes. New Age enthusiasts go further, claiming the skulls amplify spiritual energy or store hidden knowledge from lost civilizations. But let's turn to the cold, hard light of science. Modern archaeologists have subjected these skulls to rigorous analysis, and the results are eye-opening. Microscopic examination reveals tool marks consistent with 19th century European carving techniques, not ancient Mesoamerican methods. The quartz used in many skulls, including the Mitchell Hedges specimen, was likely sourced from Brazil or Madagascar regions with no known trade links to pre-Columbian societies. Even more damning, the first crystal skulls appeared in European collections during the 1800s, coinciding with a craze for exotic artifacts. Yet the mystery doesn't end there. A few skulls, like the one housed in the British Museum, display craftsmanship that still puzzles experts. Their surfaces are polished to a degree that would require hours of painstaking labor with primitive tools. Could some be genuine relics later overshadowed by fakes? Or did artisans in colonial Mexico, blending indigenous and European techniques, create them as curiosities for wealthy collectors? What's undeniable is their cultural impact. From Indiana Jones films to conspiracy theories about Atlantis, the crystal skulls have become symbols of humanity's fascination with the unknown. Whether they're ancient talismans or elaborate frauds, they challenge us to question how legends are born and why we're so eager to believe in the impossible. As we peer into their hollow eyes, we're not just studying artifacts, we're confronting our own hunger for mystery in a world where science often leaves little room for magic. Now, shifting our gaze from the enigmatic crystal skulls, we find ourselves staring into the pages of perhaps the most perplexing book ever created, the Voynich Manuscript. This cryptic tome, named after the Polish book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, who acquired it in 1912, has baffled scholars, cryptographers, and even artificial intelligence for over a century. Its pages are filled with bizarre illustrations of unknown plants, celestial diagrams, and naked women bathing in strange green fluids, all accompanied by a script that nobody has ever managed to decode. Legends whisper that those who attempt to unravel its secrets risk madness, while others claim it holds the keys to alchemical transformations or lost esoteric knowledge. The manuscript's allure isn't just in its unreadable text, but in the sheer mystery of its origins. Carbon dating places its creation between 1404 and 1438, likely in northern Italy, but its author and purpose remain shrouded in speculation. Some theories suggest it was the work of a medieval herbalist documenting unknown flora, while others argue it's an elaborate hoax designed to deceive wealthy patrons. The most tantalizing hypothesis, that it's a coded manual for alchemists, with its odd illustrations representing chemical processes or even a guide to the philosopher's stone. Then there's the script itself, a flowing, elegant cipher that defies every attempt at translation. Over the years, everyone from World War II codebreakers to modern machine learning algorithms have tried cracking it, yet none have succeeded. Linguists note that the text follows patterns found in natural languages, with word repetitions and sentence structures that suggest meaning, but the rules remain just out of reach. Could it be a lost dialect, an invented language, or an incredibly sophisticated cipher meant to protect dangerous secrets? The illustrations only deepen the puzzle. One section depicts zodiac symbols with unfamiliar constellations, while another shows root-like structures that resemble neither plants nor any known anatomical diagrams. Despite the frustration it inspires, the Voynich Manuscript has cemented its place in pop culture as the ultimate unsolved riddle. It's inspired novels, documentaries, and even conspiracy theories linking it to extraterrestrials or secret societies. Yet for all the speculation, the manuscript guards its secrets fiercely. Whether it's a forgotten scientific treatise, an elaborate medieval prank, or something far more mystical, its power lies in its ability to make us wonder. In a world where so much is known, the Voynich Manuscript remains a defiant reminder that some mysteries refuse to be solved. And perhaps that's the real magic, not in what it reveals, but in the endless curiosity it ignites. Turning from the cryptic pages of the Voynich Manuscript, we encounter a relic that bridges the gap between ancient ingenuity and modern astonishment, the Antikythera mechanism. Discovered in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901, this corroded bronze artifact seemed unremarkable at first glance, but as researchers painstakingly pieced it together, they realized they were holding what many now call the world's oldest known mechanical computer. Dating back to the 2nd century BCE, this intricate device wasn't just ahead of its time, it was centuries ahead. The mechanism's purpose to predict celestial events with jaw-dropping precision. Using a complex system of interlocking gears, it could track the movements of the sun, moon, and 5 known planets, forecast eclipses, and even mark the dates of ancient athletic games like the Olympics. What's staggering is its accuracy. modern reconstructions show that the Antikythera mechanism could predict lunar eclipses within a few hours over a span of decades. This wasn't just stargazing, it was advanced astronomy encoded in bronze. How did ancient Greeks achieve this without the tools we take for granted today? The device's design hints at a deep understanding of Babylonian astronomy and Greek mathematics, particularly the work of figures like Hipparchus, who studied the moon's irregular orbit. The mechanism's differential gear, a component once thought to have been invented in the 16th century, allowed it to account for these subtle orbital variations, effectively programming celestial patterns into metal. Some researchers believe it may have been the work of Archimedes' school in Syracuse, though its exact origins remain debated. The implications are profound. If this technology existed over 2,000 years ago, why did it vanish for centuries? The Antikythera mechanism suggests that pockets of ancient knowledge were far more sophisticated than we've assumed. Its existence raises tantalizing questions. Were there other devices like it? Did its secrets die with its creators? The mechanism's isolation in the historical record makes it even more mysterious, a single artifact hinting at a lost tradition of mechanical genius. Today, it's a testament to human curiosity. High-resolution imaging and 3D modeling have unlocked its inner workings, revealing inscriptions that serve as a user manual for the cosmos. Yet, even as we decode its functions, the Antikythera mechanism challenges our narrative of technological progress. It's not just a relic, it's a whisper from the past, reminding us that innovation isn't always linear, and that ancient minds might have reached heights we're only now rediscovering. Now, let's leave behind the intricate gears of the Antikythera mechanism and journey to the vast, arid plains of southern Peru, where an entirely different kind of ancient marvel stretches across the desert, the Nazca Lines. Etched into the earth between 500 BC and 500 CE, these massive geoglyphs depict everything from spiders and hummingbirds to geometric shapes so large they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. But what purpose did these colossal drawings serve? Unlike the Antikythera mechanism, which was built to predict celestial events, the Nazca Lines remain wrapped in mystery, with theories ranging from practical survival to otherworldly communication. One compelling idea centers on water, or rather, the desperate need for it. The Nazca people thrived in one of the driest places on Earth, where rain might fall only once every few years. Some researchers argue the lines functioned as a kind of ritual map, guiding ceremonies to summon water from underground aquifers. The spider, for instance, isn't just a random creature, it's a symbol of rain in Andean cosmology. Similarly, the hummingbird, with its connection to fertility and abundance, might have been a plea to the gods for life-giving water. Archaeologists have found ceramic offerings along the lines, suggesting they were pilgrimage sites where people prayed for sustenance. But water isn't the only theory. Another school of thought ties the Nazca Lines to the stars. Certain glyphs align with celestial events, like the winter solstice or the rising of specific constellations. The famous astronaut figure with its raised arm could point to a significant astronomical event. Indigenous oral traditions speak of ancestors who read the sky to predict seasonal changes, and the lines might have served as a giant observatory, etched into the earth to mirror the heavens. Some even propose they were activated during rituals, walked or danced along in ceremonies to commune with celestial beings or deities. Then there's the wild card. Could the Nazca Lines have been meant for someone or something else? Their sheer scale and precision have fueled speculation about extraterrestrial contact, though most scholars dismiss this as modern myth-making. More plausible is the idea that the lines were spiritual pathways, visible only to the gods from their vantage point in the sky. The Nazca might have believed their creations could be seen and answered by divine forces, turning the desert itself into a sacred canvas. What makes the Nazca Lines so fascinating is their ambiguity. Unlike the Antikythera mechanism, which had a clear mechanical function, these geoglyphs blur the line between practical need and spiritual yearning. Were they an ancient irrigation manual, a celestial calendar, a prayer made visible, the truth may lie in a combination of all three. What's undeniable is their power to captivate, inviting us to ponder not just how they were made, but why, and what they might still be trying to tell us. Now, let's travel from the sun-baked deserts of Peru to the lush green hills of Ireland, where an entirely different kind of relic holds a mysterious power, one that might just help you win an argument or charm a crowd. Perched high in the battlements of Blarney Castle, the Blarney Stone is said to grant the gift of eloquence to anyone who kisses it. But how did this unassuming block of limestone become synonymous with silver-tongued persuasion, and could its roots stretch back to the ancient Druids? The legend goes like this: if you lean back over the castle's edge, supported by an attendant, and plant a kiss on the stone, you'll be blessed with the ability to speak with flattery and wit. The tradition dates back at least to the 18th century, but its origins are murkier. One tale ties it to the medieval chieftain Cormac Mac Carthy, who supposedly received the stone as a reward for his clever diplomacy. Another story claims it was a fragment of the Stone of Scone, the legendary Scottish coronation stone. Yet the most intriguing theory connects it to Ireland's pre-Christian Druids, who revered sacred stones as conduits of wisdom and prophecy. Druidic rituals often involved natural object stones, springs, and trees believed to hold supernatural powers. The Blarney Stone's placement, high in the castle walls, echoes the Druidic practice of situating sacred sites in elevated or liminal spaces, where the earthly and spiritual worlds intersected. Could the stone have been repurposed from an older, pagan tradition, its original meaning fading into folklore? Some scholars point to the stone's unusual composition, a type of carboniferous limestone found locally, as a clue. In Druidic lore, certain stones were thought to absorb and amplify human energy, perhaps explaining the lingering belief in its persuasive power. But the Blarney Stone's magic isn't just about ancient rituals. Its reputation was turbocharged by history's great talkers and schemers. Queen Elizabeth I famously grew exasperated with the Mac Carthy clan's endless, flowery excuses to avoid surrendering their land, coining the term Blarney to mean smooth but empty flattery. Over time, the stone became a magnet for everyone from poets to politicians, all seeking a linguistic edge. Even Winston Churchill, no stranger to stirring speeches, kissed the stone in his youth and later credited it for his oratory prowess. So is the Blarney Stone's power real or just a charming myth? Science, of course, can't measure eloquence, but the stone's enduring appeal lies in something deeper: the universal human desire to master language, to persuade and inspire. Whether it's a Druidic relic reborn or a medieval PR stunt, one thing's certain: people still line up to kiss it, hoping for a little Irish magic to sharpen their words. And who knows, maybe the real secret isn't in the stone at all, but in the confidence it gives those who dare to pucker up. Next, we'll shift from the art of persuasion to something far darker, a gemstone whose beauty hides a trail of tragedy. But that's a story for another moment. Now, let's turn from the gift of gab to a relic that seems to trade in misfortune, a jewel so stunning it's said to come with a price. The Hope Diamond, with its deep blue glow the color of a midnight ocean, is arguably the world's most infamous gemstone. But beneath its mesmerizing beauty lies a chilling reputation, a curse that has shadowed its owners for centuries. The diamond's dark legend begins with its origins. Believed to have been mined in India, the stone was originally part of a larger gem that adorned the statue of a Hindu goddess. According to lore, when it was stolen in the 17th century, priests placed a curse upon it, promising misery to any who possessed it. The diamond's bloody journey seems to support this claim. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, the French merchant who first brought it to Europe, reportedly died torn apart by wild dogs, a grim start to its cursed legacy. From there, the diamond passed through royal hands with disastrous results. King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, both of whom were said to have worn the gem, met their ends at the guillotine during the French Revolution. Later owners suffered equally grim fates. A prince who gifted it to his lover was stabbed to death, and a Greek merchant who acquired it lost his fortune before driving himself and his family off a cliff. But perhaps no story is more haunting than that of Evelyn Walsh McLean, the American heiress who wore the Hope diamond as a good luck charm. Despite her wealth and status, tragedy seemed relentless. Her first son died in a car accident, her daughter took her own life, and her husband left her for another woman before being committed to a mental institution. Even after her death, the diamond's curse appeared to linger. When it was donated to the Smithsonian, the postal carrier who delivered it was later crushed by a truck. Scientists, of course, offer a more grounded explanation for the diamond's eerie allure. Its rare blue color comes from trace amounts of boron, and under ultraviolet light, it glows an uncanny red, a phenomenon that may have fueled superstitions. Yet the so-called curse might simply be a case of selective memory. After all, not every owner met a grim end, and misfortune is hardly unique to those who possess the gem. Still, the legend endures, tapping into our fascination with beauty that conceals danger. Whether cursed or merely coincidental, the Hope Diamond story reminds us that some treasures come with shadows. Next, we'll uncover another relic whose fame is wrapped in whispers of doom, this time from the sands of ancient Egypt. Shifting from cursed jewels to ancient tombs, we now enter the realm of pharaohs and the supernatural. When Howard Carter unsealed Tutankhamun's burial chamber in 1922, the world was gripped not just by the treasure inside, but by whispers of a deadly curse. The untimely deaths of those involved in the excavation sparked a legend still discussed today. Was it mere coincidence, or something far more sinister? The so-called curse of the pharaohs seemed to begin with Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financial backer. Just months after entering the tomb, he died from an infected mosquito bite, an oddly mundane end for a man supposedly struck down by supernatural vengeance. But the press at the time sensationalized his death, linking it to a warning inscribed in the tomb: "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." Soon, other deaths followed. Carter's personal secretary died abruptly from a suspected poisoning. A radiologist who examined the mummy succumbed to an unknown illness, and Carnarvon's half-brother passed away under mysterious circumstances. Even a visitor to the tomb, Prince Ali Fahmy Bey, was shot dead by his wife months later. To many, it seemed the curse was claiming its victims one by one. Science, however, offers a less mystical explanation. Modern researchers point to toxic mold spores, specifically Aspergillus flavus, found lurking in the sealed tomb. When inhaled, these fungi can cause severe respiratory infections, especially in individuals with weakened immune systems. Given that many early explorers entered without protective gear, it's possible their illnesses were biological, not supernatural. Another theory suggests the ancient Egyptians might have intentionally placed toxic materials like mercury or arsenic in tombs as a defense against grave robbers, inadvertently creating a deadly trap for modern archaeologists. Yet the curse's psychological power can't be ignored. Howard Carter himself, who spent years handling the tomb's artifacts, lived until 64 with no apparent repercussions. Was he immune, or did the curse's potency lie in the fear it inspired? The deaths, while tragic, were statistically no higher than average for the time, but our tendency to connect them reveals a deeper fascination with the idea that the past can reach into the present with a vengeful hand. Whether fungal spores or pharaonic wrath, the mystery of Tutankhamun's curse endures because it taps into something universal: the fear that some boundaries once crossed cannot be uncrossed. Next, we'll examine a relic of a different kind, one whose power wasn't mystical, but linguistic, unlocking secrets that had been silent for centuries. Now let's turn from curses to a relic that wielded a very different kind of power, one that didn't harm but revealed. The Rosetta Stone didn't just survive the ages, it became a bridge across time, unlocking a language lost for centuries. Picture this, a slab of black granite, unearthed in 1799 by French soldiers digging near the Egyptian town of Rashid, or Rosetta. It wasn't adorned with gold or jewels, but what it carried was far more valuable. The same text inscribed in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs. At the time, hieroglyphs were a mystery, a forgotten code scribbled on temple walls and papyri, their meaning buried with the last priests of ancient Egypt. Scholars had tried and failed for over 1,000 years to decipher them, but the Rosetta Stone changed everything. The Greek text, which could still be read, acted like a cheat sheet. It was a decree from 1960 BC honoring Pharaoh Ptolemy V. By comparing the known Greek to the unknown hieroglyphs, linguists had their first real shot at cracking the code. Enter Jean-François Champollion, the tenacious French scholar who dedicated his life to the puzzle. While others got stuck on the idea that hieroglyphs were purely symbolic, Champollion guessed they might also represent sounds like an alphabet. His breakthrough came when he matched the name Ptolemy in the Greek section to a series of hieroglyphs enclosed in a cartouche, a royal oval. From there, he pieced together other names like Cleopatra and eventually uncovered the phonetic nature of the script. By 1822, he deciphered enough to read the ancient words fluently, tearing open the door to Egypt's past. The impact was staggering. Suddenly, temple inscriptions, funeral texts, and administrative records could speak again. The Book of the Dead, the wisdom of pharaohs, even mundane tax records, all were translated, revealing a civilization in vivid detail. The Rosetta Stone didn't just translate words, it resurrected voices. Imagine hearing Ramses II brag about his victories or a grieving mother's lament in her child's tomb, all because of this single slab. Yet, the stone's true power wasn't just linguistic, it was cultural. Before its discovery, Egyptology relied on guesswork and stereotypes. Afterward, it became a science. Historians could verify dates, understand rituals, and trace political shifts with precision. Even today, every new hieroglyphic translation owes a debt to this relic. Of course, the stone's legacy isn't without controversy. It rests in the British Museum, far from home, a reminder of colonial tensions. Some argue it belongs in Egypt, where it was carved. Others counter that its global fame ensures its preservation and access for scholars worldwide. But no matter where it sits, its power endures. Where Tutankhamun's curse spoke of death, the Rosetta Stone whispers life, a proof that some relics don't wield supernatural force, but something just as potent, the ability to make the silent past speak again. Next, we'll delve into a relic that promised not knowledge, but transformation, the elusive philosopher's stone, where science and magic blurred into legend. Now, let's shift from the Rosetta Stone's gift of language to a relic that promised something even more extraordinary, the power to cheat death itself. The philosopher's stone wasn't just a legend, it was the Holy Grail of alchemy, a symbol of humanity's oldest obsession, immortality. Picture medieval laboratories, smoky and cluttered, where scholars toiled over bubbling flasks, convinced that somewhere in the secrets of matter lay the key to eternal life. The stone's myth was twofold. First, it could transform base metals like lead into gold, a feat that tantalized kings and beggars alike. But its greater allure was the elixir of life, a substance rumored to cure all ailments and grant endless youth. The idea wasn't just fantasy. Alchemists like Paracelsus and Nicholas Flamel, yes, the same Flamel immortalized in Harry Potter, devoted their lives to its pursuit, blending science, mysticism, and sheer desperation. Flamel's legend grew so potent that even centuries after his death, people swore he'd succeeded, pointing to cryptic symbols in his grave as proof. But the stone's symbolism ran deeper than laboratory dreams. It represented the ultimate human quest to conquer the limits of nature. In medieval Europe, alchemy was a dangerous game, often banned by the church for its heretical undertones. Yet it persisted, hidden in coded manuscripts and secret societies. Isaac Newton, better known for gravity, spent decades hunting the stone, filling notebooks with esoteric formulas. To him, alchemy wasn't superstition. It was the frontier of science, a way to uncover divine truths hidden in the elements. Fast forward to modern times, and the stone's legacy shifts from lab to legend. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone reintroduced it to pop culture, framing it as a test of purity. Only those who sought it for noble reasons, not greed, could possess it. Yet, the real-world parallels are striking. Today's scientists might not chase literal gold-making stones, but the dream of immortality lives on in Silicon Valley's anti-aging startups and cryonics labs, where billionaires freeze their bodies, hoping future technology will revive them. The Philosopher's Stone endures because it speaks to a timeless truth. Humans will always wrestle with mortality. Whether through medieval alchemy, modern medicine, or fiction, the desire to transcend our frailties remains unchanged. And that's the stone's real power, not in turning lead to gold, but in revealing how far we'll go to outwit time itself. Next, we'll explore a relic that blurred the lines between faith and forensics, the Sudarium of Oviedo, a blood-stained cloth said to share the shroud of Turin's sacred mystery. While the Philosopher's Stone tantalized with promises of eternal life, another relic offers what some consider tangible evidence of resurrection itself. Enter the Sudarium of Oviedo, a lesser-known but equally compelling counterpart to the famous Shroud of Turin. This small, blood-stained cloth, housed in Spain's Cathedral of Oviedo, carries its own weight of mystery and devotion. Unlike the shroud's full-body image, the Sudarium is said to have covered the face of Jesus after his crucifixion, bearing gruesome markings that eerily align with biblical descriptions of his suffering. Forensic studies of the Sudarium reveal chilling details. The stains match the pattern of a crown of thorns, with blood pooling from the scalp and nose, consistent with the trauma of crucifixion. Even more striking, the blood type matches that found on the Shroud of Turin, fueling theories that both relics touched the same wounded body. For believers, this isn't coincidence, it's corroboration. The Sudarium's documented history adds to its credibility. Unlike the Shroud, which surfaces abruptly in the 14th century, the Sudarium's journey is traced back to Jerusalem in the 1st century, smuggled to Spain during the Muslim conquest. Its survival through centuries of upheaval lends it an air of miraculous endurance. Skeptics, of course, point to carbon dating controversies that plague both relics. Yet, the Sudarium's defenders argue that contamination over centuries could skew results, and they highlight peculiar details science struggles to explain. For instance, the cloth shows traces of myrrh and aloe substances mentioned in the Gospel of John as used in Jesus' burial. To devotees, these forensic crumbs form a trail leading to one conclusion: the Sudarium and the Shroud are two pieces of the same sacred puzzle. The rivalry between the two relics isn't about disproving one another but enriching the narrative. The Shroud offers an enigmatic image, while the Sudarium provides visceral, physical evidence of violence. Together, they create a mosaic of faith and forensics that neither could achieve alone. In a world hungry for proof, the Sudarium whispers to the Shroud's grander mystery, offering what some see as God's fingerprint in the bloodstains of history. Next, we turn to an ancient divination tool that shaped kingdoms, the Urim and Thummim, stones believed to channel divine verdicts for kings and prophets. Now, shifting our focus from sacred cloths to enigmatic stones, we encounter one of the most cryptic relics in biblical history, the Urim and Thummim. These mysterious objects mentioned in the Hebrew Bible were not just artifacts but divine instruments believed to reveal God's will. Used by high priests and kings, they served as a celestial hotline for critical decisions, from waging wars to settling disputes. Unlike ordinary lots or dice, the Urim and Thummim were shrouded in ritual, their power reserved for moments when human wisdom fell short. The exact nature of these objects remains debated. Some scholars suggest they were two stones, one light, one dark, that gave binary yes or no answers when cast. Others propose they were inscribed tablets or gems that glowed with divine insight. What's clear is their role in shaping Israel's destiny. The Bible recounts how King David consulted them to pinpoint traitors, while Moses' successor, Joshua, relied on them to allocate tribal land. Their use wasn't random chance but sacred protocol, blending faith with a tangible method of revelation. Fascinatingly, echoes of the Urim and Thummim appear in modern fringe archaeology. Certain Mormon traditions, for instance, claim founder Joseph Smith used seer stones to translate the Book of Mormon, mirroring the ancient practice of divine communication. These stones, often polished and placed in hats to block ambient light, allegedly channeled celestial messages, a parallel that blurs the line between relic and revelation. While mainstream archaeology dismisses such claims, the persistence of these stories underscores humanity's timeless hunger for objects that bridge the mortal and divine. Skeptics argue the Urim and Thummim were likely a form of cleromancy, a widespread ancient practice of casting lots elevated by theology to legitimize rulings. Yet, even this pragmatic view can't fully explain their revered status. Why would a faith so wary of idolatry enshrine physical objects as conduits of truth? Perhaps because they symbolized a profound idea that the divine could intervene in human affairs with clarity, not just metaphor. The Urim and Thummim's legacy endures in questions about fate and free will. Were they tools of providence, or did they simply formalize choices already made in the heart? Either way, they remind us that relics often hold power not just in their material form, but in the stories we attach to them. And sometimes the most enduring mystery isn't how they worked, but why we so deeply needed them to. Next, we'll explore a relic that guided sailors through storms. The Norse sunstone, a crystal said to harness the sun's hidden light even on the foggiest days. No stranger to navigating treacherous waters, the Vikings wielded more than just sturdy longships and star charts. Legends tell of a mystical relic that pierced through the densest fog, the sunstone, a crystal said to reveal the sun's position even when it was utterly invisible to the naked eye. While it sounds like the stuff of myth, modern science suggests there might be a glimmer of truth behind these ancient tales. The Norse sunstone's purported power lies in its ability to polarize light. On overcast days or during twilight, when the sun is obscured, certain crystals like calcite or Iceland spar can filter scattered sunlight to determine its exact position. By rotating the stone until its double refraction aligns, sailors could pinpoint the sun's location with eerie accuracy. This wasn't mere folklore, it was practical physics disguised as magic. Historical sagas like the Saga of St. Olaf describe Viking navigators using a solarstein to locate the sun on cloudy days. But for centuries, scholars dismissed these accounts as poetic exaggeration. That changed in 2003 when archaeologists unearthed a calcite crystal aboard a 16th century English shipwreck, hinting that such tools persisted long after the Viking Age. Then, in 2011, researchers demonstrated that calcite could indeed navigate within a few degrees of the sun's true position, even after sunset. Suddenly, the sunstone legend transformed from fable to feasible technology. What makes this relic especially fascinating is how it bridges myth and methodology. Unlike divine artifacts that relied on faith, the sunstone's power stemmed from natural optical properties the Vikings may have stumbled upon through keen observation. Imagine a navigator fog-bound in the North Atlantic holding a crystal aloft to catch faint light patterns. To his crew, it might have seemed like sorcery. In reality, it was early applied science, harnessing Earth's atmosphere like a cosmic compass. Yet mysteries linger. No Viking-era sunstone has ever been found in a Norse archaeological site, leaving room for skepticism. Some argue that oral traditions may have conflated rare crystal sightings with navigational techniques, while others propose the stones were so valuable they were never buried with their owners. Either way, the Sunstone's legend endures, a testament to humanity's knack for turning nature's quirks into survival tools. As we sail from Viking pragmatism toward another relic of destiny, consider this: sometimes the line between myth and innovation is thinner than the edge of a calcite crystal. Up next, we'll journey to Sri Lanka, where a sacred tooth is said to command the very skies, shifting from the Vikings' practical magic to the mystical traditions of the East. We arrive in the lush highlands of Sri Lanka, where faith and nature intertwine in the legend of the Buddha's tooth relic. Enshrined in the golden temple of the sacred tooth in Kandy, this revered artifact isn't just a spiritual symbol, it's believed to wield power over the very elements, particularly the monsoons that dictate life on the island. According to local lore, the tooth, said to have been retrieved from Buddha's funeral pyre in the 6th century BC, holds the capacity to summon or calm rains. The annual Azala Perahara festival, a vibrant procession honoring the relic, is more than a cultural spectacle. Pilgrims and farmers alike view it as a plea for timely monsoons, a ritual so potent that droughts have been attributed to its neglect. Historical records even note that ancient kings would parade the relic during droughts, with subsequent rains interpreted as divine favor. But could there be a grain of meteorological truth beneath the devotion? Geographically, Sri Lanka's monsoons are influenced by complex wind patterns and ocean currents, but some scholars propose that the temple's location in Kandy, nestled in the island's central highlands, might play a role in local weather phenomena. The area's microclimates, shaped by elevation and vegetation, could create conditions where seasonal winds interact uniquely with the terrain, making rainfall seem responsive to the relic's presence. The tooth's journey to Sri Lanka is itself a tale of intrigue. Smuggled from India in the 4th century CE, hidden in the hair of a princess, it became a political talisman. Kings who possessed it were seen as legitimate rulers, and its safekeeping was tied to the kingdom's prosperity. This dual role, spiritual and sovereign, elevated the relic beyond mere veneration. It became a barometer of stability, with droughts or floods often blamed on its mistreatment. Modern science, of course, attributes monsoons to atmospheric dynamics, yet the relic's cultural impact remains undeniable. Meteorologists might dismiss the connection as coincidence, but for millions, the tooth embodies a harmony between human ritual and natural order. Even today, the temple's custodians meticulously follow ancient protocols, cleaning the relic with herbal waters, chanting precise sutras, believing that any lapse could disrupt the rains. As we explore relics that blur the lines between myth and mechanism, the Buddha's tooth stands apart. It's not just an object of worship, but a bridge between the tangible and the transcendent, where devotion and climate share an unspoken dialogue. Next, we'll venture to the windswept coasts of Brittany, where megaliths are said to sing, and perhaps to speak secrets of the ancient world, leaving behind the monsoon-summoning powers of the Buddha's tooth. Let's set our sights on the misty shores of Brittany, where an ancient stone orchestra awaits. Here, the singing stones of Karnak stand in eerie silence until they're struck, that is. These towering megaliths, arranged in sprawling alignments across the French countryside, are said to produce haunting musical tones when touched just right, a phenomenon that's baffled archaeologists and enchanted visitors for centuries. With over 3,000 stones stretching across miles in parallel rows, Karnak's megaliths predate even the pyramids. Local legends claim they were once a petrified Roman army, cursed by a wizard, while others insist they're the work of druids who imbued them with acoustic magic. But the most persistent tale is that these stones sing some like deep bronze bells, others with crystalline chimes when struck with specific rocks or tools. Farmers once avoided plowing near them, fearing the sounds might unleash storms or summon spirits. So is there science behind the symphony. geologists note that many of the stones contain high quartz content, a mineral known to vibrate under pressure, much like the piezoelectric crystals in modern speakers. When struck at certain angles, the stones could theoretically produce resonant frequencies. Experiments in the 1970s revealed that some megaliths, like those at the nearby ring of Brodgar in Scotland, emit audible tones, suggesting ancient builders might have deliberately selected musical rocks. But Karnak stones also align with solstice sunrises, fueling theories they were part of a larger ritual landscape. Some researchers propose the sounds were used in druidic ceremonies, perhaps to induce trances or communicate over long distances. The alignment of the stones could have acted as a natural amplifier, projecting tones across the plains. Others argue the acoustics were accidental, a byproduct of the stone's erosion over millennia. One thing's certain, the megalith's cultural weight rivals their physical heft. Breton folklore warns that disrupting the stones brings misfortune, and even today, visitors report an uncanny hush settling over the site at dusk, as if the stones are listening. Whether their music was sacred ritual or geological quirk, Karnak's silent sentinels continue to hum with mystery. Next, we'll uncover a relic far darker, a candle made from a severed hand, said to paralyze anyone who crossed its flickering light. From the haunting melodies of Karnak stones, we descend into the macabre where folklore and fear intertwine in the chilling tale of the Hand of Glory. This grotesque relic, born from medieval European superstition, was no mere artifact but a thief's most dreaded tool. Imagine a candle crafted from the severed hand of a hanged man, its withered fingers clutching a wick made from the corpse's own fat. Legend claimed that when lit, this ghastly creation would render everyone in a household immobile, as if frozen in time, while thieves ransacked the home undisturbed. The Hand of Glory's recipe was as precise as it was horrifying. According to grimoires and oral traditions, the hand had to be taken from a criminal executed by hanging, preferably at a crossroads, a liminal space believed to amplify dark magic. The fingers, once removed, were sometimes repurposed as individual candles, each with its own sinister function. To activate the relic's power, thieves recited incantations or anointed the hand with grave dirt and wax. Some versions of the legend insisted the candle would only burn if held by the thief, casting an eerie glow that illuminated loot while leaving victims in paralytic darkness. But was there any truth to the terror? Historians trace the Hand of Glory to 17th century England and France, where pamphlets and trial records detailed its use by outlaws like the infamous burglar William Broomfield, who allegedly employed one during a spree in Yorkshire. Folklore scholars note parallels to older European myths, such as the Norse necropants, a pair of trousers made from a dead man's skin, said to grant inexhaustible wealth. The hand's power likely stemmed from psychological warfare. The mere threat of such a relic could cow superstitious villagers into submission. Scientific skepticism, however, casts doubt. Modern analyses suggest the paralytic effect might have been achieved through toxic fumes. Some recipes included opium or belladonna in the wax, which, when burned, could induce stupor. Yet the hand's symbolic potency is undeniable. It embodied the era's fascination with sympathetic magic, the idea that a corpse's parts retained a connection to their former life, channeling the hanged man's helplessness into the victim's. Curiously, the Hand of Glory also found its way into protective rituals. Some households kept a counterhand, often a carved wooden replica, to ward off thieves. Churches in northern England displayed alleged hands as warnings against sin, blurring the line between relic and deterrent. Today, preserved specimens in museums, like the one at Whitby's Whitby Museum, continue to unsettle visitors, a grim reminder of how fear can crystallize into artifact. As we extinguish the candle's flicker, our next relic promises something far more seductive. The dream of eternal youth leaving behind the shadowy realms of cursed artifacts. We turn now to a relic that has tantalized humanity with the ultimate promise, the Fountain of Youth. This mythical spring, said to restore youth and vitality to anyone who drinks or bathes in its waters, has inspired explorers, kings, and storytellers for centuries. The legend is most famously tied to the Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon, who, in the early 1500s, embarked on a perilous quest through the Caribbean and Florida in search of its rejuvenating waters. But the idea of a life-extending fountain predates even his adventures, with roots stretching back to ancient civilizations. Long before Ponce de Leon set sail, the Greek historian Herodotus wrote of a magical spring in Ethiopia rumored to grant extraordinary longevity. Similar tales appeared in the writings of the medieval Prester John, a mythical Christian king whose realm was said to contain a river of immortality. The Arabian Nights also spoke of mystical waters with life-giving properties, while indigenous cultures across the Americas told of sacred springs with healing powers. These stories all shared a common thread: the human desire to cheat death and reclaim lost vigor. Ponce de Leon's obsession with the Fountain of Youth was likely fueled by these older legends, combined with the broader European fixation on eternal life during the Age of Exploration. Though historical records suggest his primary mission was to claim new lands for Spain, the myth of his quest for the fountain became inseparable from his legacy. Later accounts, like those of the chronicler Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo, exaggerated the tale, painting Ponce de Leon as a man desperate to reverse time. Whether he truly believed in the fountain or not, the story endured, cementing the relic's place in popular imagination. Fast forward to the modern era, and the Fountain of Youth's allure persists, though its form has evolved. Places like Lourdes in France, where pilgrims flock to bathe in waters believed to have miraculous healing properties, echo the ancient longing for rejuvenation. Scientific advancements, too, have given rise to new interpretations of the myth. Cryonics, the practice of freezing bodies or brains in hopes of future revival, is often framed as a technological fountain of youth, promising a second life through science rather than magic. Even the booming wellness industry, with its elixirs and anti-aging treatments, taps into the same timeless yearning that once drove explorers across uncharted seas. Yet, for all our progress, the Fountain of Youth remains as elusive as ever. No verified spring has ever been found to halt aging, and cryonics remains speculative at best. Perhaps the real power of this relic lies not in its existence, but in what it reveals about us, the unshakable human drive to defy time's relentless march. With a dream of eternal youth still unfulfilled, our journey through history's enigmatic relics takes another twist, leading us to an artifact that plays with something just as elusive: invisibility. Now, stepping from the quest for eternal youth into the realm of the unseen, we arrive at one of history's most tantalizing relics, the Cloak of Invisibility. This legendary artifact, woven into folklore and fantasy, promises the power to vanish from sight, bending reality itself. But its roots stretch far beyond modern fiction, tracing back to ancient myths and even early scientific curiosity. One of the earliest known tales comes from Germanic folklore with the Tarncap, a mystical hood or cloak worn by heroes like Siegfried in the Nibelungenlied. According to legend, donning the Tarncap not only rendered the wearer invisible but also granted immense strength, a double boon for warriors navigating treacherous quests. Similar stories appear across cultures, from the Welsh mantle of King Arthur's advisor, Merlin, to the Japanese fable of the Hagoromo, a celestial robe that could erase its wearer from mortal view. What unites these legends is humanity's enduring fascination with escaping notice, whether for survival, trickery, or divine purpose. But could there be a sliver of truth hidden in these myths? Medieval scholars and alchemists, always towing the line between magic and proto-science, theorized about materials or techniques that might manipulate light. The 13th century philosopher Albertus Magnus, for example, reportedly crafted a see-through stone that bent light around objects, an early nod to optical illusions. While his experiments leaned more into legend than fact, they reveal how the idea of invisibility captivated even early scientific minds. Fast forward to the modern era, and the cloak of invisibility has evolved from shadowy myth to cutting-edge science. Researchers in metamaterials, engineered substances that bend electromagnetic waves, have made strides in creating invisibility cloaks on a microscopic scale. Though we're far from vanishing at will like Harry Potter under his silvery shroud, these breakthroughs suggest that the ancients weren't entirely wrong, just ahead of their time. Pop culture, of course, has embraced the cloak's allure with gusto, from the Brothers Grimm's cunning thieves to J.K. Rowling's stealthy adventurers. Invisibility remains a metaphor for secrecy, power, and the thin veil between seen and unseen worlds. Even H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man twisted the trope into a cautionary tale about the perils of unchecked ambition. What makes the cloak of invisibility so timeless isn't just its fantastical appeal, it's the universal longing to observe without being observed, to navigate the world on our own terms. Whether as a relic of myth or a future marvel of science, its power lies in the endless human desire to transcend our limits. And just as we ponder the boundaries of sight and shadow, our next relic takes us into the hands of legends literally. The wands of Merlin and Saint Cyprian await, where magic and faith intertwine in ways that defy simple explanation. Now, shifting from the unseen to the unmistakably powerful, we encounter relics that channel magic through touch, the legendary wands of Merlin and Saint Cyprian. These staffs, steeped in myth and miracle, represent two distinct but equally fascinating traditions, one rooted in Arthurian legend, the other in Christian mysticism. Though separated by belief and purpose, both wands share an uncanny ability to blur the line between earthly and supernatural power. Merlin's wand, often depicted as a gnarled branch or a staff crowned with mystical symbols, embodies the archetype of the wizard's tool, crafted not just to cast spells but to amplify the wielder's innate magic. Medieval texts like the Prose Merlin describe it as a conduit for prophecy, weather control, and even bending time. In one Welsh tale, Merlin uses his wand to raise Stonehenge, commanding stones to fly through the air like swallows. What makes Merlin's wand unique is its tie to the natural world, imbued with the energy of ancient forests and celestial alignments, a bridge between druidic lore and medieval romance. In stark contrast, the wand of Saint Cyprian, a 3rd-century Christian convert and patron saint of necromancers, bears the weight of holy paradox. Once a pagan sorcerer, Cyprian's legendary staff became a tool for exorcism after his conversion, symbolizing the triumph of divine will over dark arts. Spanish and Portuguese folklore depicts it as a simple wooden rod, often carved with crosses or biblical verses, used to banish demons and heal the afflicted. Unlike Merlin's wand, which thrives on arcane knowledge, Cyprian's derives power from faith. A 17th-century manuscript from Madrid recounts how his staff smote the ground and devils fled shrieking into the abyss, a vivid illustration of its role in spiritual warfare. The duality of these wands reveals much about how societies perceived magic. Merlin's staff, fluid and adaptable, mirrors the ambiguity of Arthurian tales where magic is neither wholly good nor evil but a force shaped by its wielder. Cyprian's wand, however, reflects Christianity's binary struggle between salvation and sin. Even their materials hint at this divide. Merlin's often oak or hawthorn trees sacred to Celts, Cyprian's typically yew associated with churchyards and resurrection. Yet both traditions intersect in their theatricality. Whether summoning storms or casting out demons, these wands demand performance, a ritualistic flourish that underscores their power. Modern occult practices still echo this. Wiccan wands channel energy through precise gestures, while some Catholic exorcists use blessed rods reminiscent of Cyprian's. The theatricality isn't mere show, it's a psychological anchor, making the intangible tangible for believers and bystanders alike. As we leave these enchanted staffs behind, our journey through history's relics takes us to an artifact that speaks without words, the oracle bones of China's Shang dynasty, where cracks in tortoise shells whispered the future to kings. Now, let's step into the ancient world of divination and power, where the cracks in a tortoise shell could shape the fate of an empire. The oracle bones of China's Shang dynasty, dating back over 3,000 years, are more than mere relics. They were the bureaucratic and spiritual backbone of one of history's earliest superpowers. These fragments of bone and shell, etched with some of the oldest known Chinese writing, were the tools kings used to commune with the divine, seeking answers on everything from harvests to warfare. The process was as meticulous as it was mystical. Diviners would carve questions into the bones, often the shoulder blades of oxen or the plastrons of tortoises, before applying scorching rods to create cracks. These fissures weren't random. They were interpreted as messages from ancestors or gods, a celestial hotline for rulers desperate to avoid disaster or secure victory. One particularly dramatic inscription asks whether the coming 10 days would bring misfortune, while another pleads for guidance on suppressing a rebellion. The answers, recorded alongside the questions, reveal a world where politics and prophecy were inseparable. What makes these bones truly extraordinary is their dual role. Beyond their spiritual function, they were administrative records, the Shang equivalent of a national archive. The scribes who engraved them were early bureaucrats, cataloging the kingdom's concerns with startling precision. A bone might detail a king's toothache one day and a military campaign the next, blending the mundane and the monumental. This intersection of mysticism and record-keeping offers a rare window into how the Shang saw their universe, a place where human decisions were guided by the whispers of the unseen. The language itself is a marvel. These inscriptions are the ancestors of modern Chinese script, with characters recognizable even today. Some bones even bear the scribe's notes, corrections, or practice strokes, hinting at the painstaking craftsmanship behind each divination. The sheer volume of surviving bones, over 200,000, have been excavated, suggests an almost industrial scale of spiritual inquiry, a testament to how deeply the Shang relied on these rituals. Modern archaeology has debunked some myths while deepening others. While we now understand the cracks were likely controlled by heat manipulation, the cultural weight of the practice endures. These bones weren't just fortune-telling tools. They were instruments of statecraft, reinforcing the king's authority as both ruler and intermediary with the divine. In a world without polls or press conferences, they were the ultimate focus group, a way to gauge divine approval before every major decision. As we close this journey through history's most enigmatic relics, from wands that commanded demons to bones that spoke for gods, one truth emerges. These artifacts captivated because they promised control over the uncontrollable. Whether through faith, force, or foresight, they gave their wielders a glimpse of power beyond human limits. And perhaps that's why, centuries later, their legends still haunt us. If these mysteries ignited your curiosity, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more deep dives into history's unsolved puzzles. Which relic's power fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Now, as we reach the end of our journey through these 25 extraordinary relics, one thing becomes undeniably clear. Their so-called powers reveal far more about us than about the objects themselves. Whether it was the Ark of the Covenant's terrifying divine wrath, the Holy Grail's promise of eternal life, or the oracle bones' glimpses into the future, each artifact tapped into humanity's deepest yearnings, the desire to control the uncontrollable, to heal the unhealable, and to touch something beyond our mortal limits. Think about it. Why did rulers from ancient China to Nazi Germany obsess over these relics? Because they offered a tantalizing illusion of mastery in a chaotic world. The Spear of Destiny wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of fate itself bending to the wielder's will. The Philosopher's Stone wasn't merely an alchemist's tool, it was the ultimate cheat code against death. Even the humble Blarney stone, with its gift of eloquence, promised an edge in a world where words could make or break empires. But here's the fascinating twist: science and scholarship have stripped away much of the magic, yet the legends endure. We now know the Hope Diamond's curse was likely coincidence, not supernatural vengeance. The Terracotta army's cursed weapons, a stroke of ancient metallurgical genius. But does that make these relics any less compelling? Absolutely not. Their true power lies in the stories we've woven around them, the collective myths that reveal our timeless fascination with the unknown. So, which relic captured your imagination? Was it the eerie precision of the Antikythera mechanism, a machine so ahead of its time it feels alien? Or the haunting silence of the Voynich Manuscript, its secrets still locked away after centuries? Maybe the raw, primal mysticism of the Norse sunstone, guiding sailors through storms like a celestial GPS. Whatever your pick, these artifacts remind us that history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about the dreams and dreads that shaped civilizations. If unraveling these enigmas has left you hungry for more, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to join us on future deep dives into history's greatest puzzles. And don't forget to drop your favorite relic in the comments. We love hearing which mysteries ignite your curiosity. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the greatest power isn't in the artifact but in the wonder it inspires.